You're listening to Careers and Cocktails, career talk with a twist, hosted by expert recruiter Renee Frey. Let's get this party started.
Hey party people, welcome to Careers and Cocktails. Today we are making a Donnie Mule, and Donnie Gupton is our special guest today. However, he's sitting in sunny California, so we will be Zooming together later. So I've decided to make the drink in advance. And we've had mules on before, but I just want to share a little bit about how they got their name. They're most commonly served in these beautiful copper cups, which take on the temperature of the drink. But the Moscow Mule, formerly known or alternatively known as a vodka buck. So they have three ingredients. They have vodka, lime juice, and then ginger beer. And the ginger beer is what gives it the kick. And so hence the mule name. We will get started. We need 1.5 ounces of vodka. Today we are using Tito's. Actually, I'm going to step back and put the ice in my cup. We're just going to mix it right in the cup. So I'm putting ice into my copper mug, and I will take 1.5 ounces of vodka. And I always spill. That's what my messy bar is for here. Ooh, that was pretty good. Put in 1/2 ounce of the Tito, so it's 1.5 ounce total. And then juice fresh from a lime, half of a lime. Squeeze that into our cup. And Donnie wanted a blood orange mule. And apparently blood oranges are really hard to come by in the Midwest this time of year. So we are improvising with some sparkling blood orange water. So now my lime juice is in the cup. And now we're going to add 4 ounces of ginger beer. And we are using, oh, that was the wrong. I picked up the sparkling blood orange. We are using Spectacular ginger beer. Well, this must be the best because if it's called Spectacular, it's in a cute little aluminum can. I'm assuming it's more than 4 ounces. Darn it. We'll measure it out because I'm so good at measuring, even though I promise I'm really good at math. Just not good at measuring. Sometimes I think tablespoons mean ounces and vice versa, and then we're in big trouble if I'm mixing cocktails. All right, so we've got the ginger beer in, the lime, and the vodka, which is a traditional mule. And now we're going to spice it up for Mr. Donnie and add in the blood orange sparkling water. And it says 1 ounce. Throw that in there. And if you don't know me, I love anything with bubbles. So I'm super excited about this. So we're going to mix it up. And then there is a recommendation to really spruce it up. You can add pomegranate juice or pineapple juice, but I'm going to try it just like this. And I'm going to garnish with my lime wedge because what fun is a drink if you don't have some sort of pretty garnish on the top? So I'm going to take a taste. Oh, that's pretty good. It's really good. And the ginger gives it such a bite at the end. Well, I am so excited that we have Donnie Gupton as my guest today on Careers and Cocktails, and I'm going to share a little bit about him. He is a marketing guru who helps companies grow their business through a unique digital sourcing system. He began as a competitive athlete playing football for a community college and then made the decision to walk on at the University of Nevada. Wow, give you mega props for that. Donnie has embraced his competitive nature and taken the experience and lessons he learned in his football career into his professional career. Donnie has developed a specific methodology that provides recruiters with a steady stream of clients and candidates depending on their needs. It's called the Relevant Recruiter Method. Donnie is known for his ability to disrupt the industry and help clients truly stand out and share their value, which I can attest for. And Donnie, I saw this on your website and loved it. I thought it gave a really clear representation of who you are. And there's a quote on there. It says, "I'm obsessed with growth. I don't let an opportunity pass me by. I'll earn my spot and do what it takes to win, even if it's unconventional. I will execute even the smallest things over and over again. I'll take the irrelevant to be relevant." Love that. Welcome, Donnie.
Thank you, Renee. Thank you for that intro. Shoot, do we need to interview me still? I mean, that was wonderful.
Of course we do. And we're going to
That was wonderful. Thank you. I appreciate everything and obviously appreciate our friendship and relationship. So
me as well. Me as well. So Donnie requested a blood orange mule. So I had made that in advance with the lovely Tito's, which is a great go-to mixing vodka. And Donnie, what are you drinking over there in SoCal?
Well, actually, I'm in NorCal, Renee.
Oh, NorCal.
This time, but I'm drinking a little Sierra Nevada, which is out of NorCal, a little Chico brewing company. So, beer is probably my number one drink of choice. The blood orange, actually, a little story behind that, Renee, is I was actually in Reno watching a football game for my alma mater and went to a bar after the game, surprisingly. And it was a really nice bar, and my wife loves mules, and I enjoy, when I do drink a cocktail, I usually drink a Tito's mule, so I love the Tito's there. And so I just saw this random thing on the menu. It was all a bunch of, kind of high-end, cocktails, for lack of a better word, and there was the blood orange. So what do you think of that now that you've tried it?
I think it's delicious, but we had to substitute because we can't find blood oranges here in the Midwest in the fall, so we substituted with some dry sparkling blood orange. But it's delicious.
Good. Yeah. That was
really
a random cocktail that I had that was kind of became a favorite, but yeah, you typically stick to the beer.
Awesome. So Donnie, how did we meet? Share it with everyone how we met.
Yeah. So, I mean, really it was just through social media, right? I think, we connected on LinkedIn, I think first, and then from your story, I think you followed some of my content and engaged with some of my webinars and things like that. And then we had our initial call, and then obviously we worked together, which was a great joy, definitely for me. So.
Well, and I have to say that it's pretty cool because we've never met in person.
Right.
But yet we have this friendship and really shows that there's no barriers to networking.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's, the biggest thing that people can leverage now and learn from is exactly this, and it's not like we have a legitimate friendship. It's not like a social media friendship. It's not anything like that. It's like, we have a friendship and it's only a matter of time before we meet. But I think that's what's cool about today's world, is that I know you have other relationships just like me with other colleagues across the country. And now it's even across the world. I've got clients in Australia and New Zealand that it's kind of the same thing. And so I think we're living in just a really killer time right now that you can actually build genuine relationships without actually meeting people. And just like a tool like this on Zoom, and being able to connect and have this face-to-face interaction, I think it's amazing. So
I agree. I love it because I love people and I love relationships.
Yep.
So Donnie, pretend I'm a kindergartner. I'm sitting at my little flip top table. I'm like half the size I am, or maybe a quarter of the size I am. Explain to me what you do for a living.
Well, I mean, in the simplest terms, I'm a mentor slash coach, and my area of passion has always been from, marketing and lead generation. And so, I basically mentor people and help people, develop new skills that they can take for a lifetime. I started off being more in kind of the agency done for you space. And I think there's a lot of value there, but I would just had a lot more passion about helping people. I actually thought about becoming a football coach after I was done playing football. And then it was kind of as I got into this business world, I started having that obsession with marketing, business development, and kind of had to because that was the only way I was going to make money working with my dad at the time. So, that's in the simplest terms. I'm just a coach that helps people, drive business faster.
I love it. And what can we help you celebrate this week?
Geez. I'm really, quite honestly, Renee, just on a kick of the simplest things right now, and just being grateful for the air that I breathe, my daughter went for her 5-month checkup yesterday, and the fact that she's healthy, we can celebrate that.
All right. Cheers. Virtual cheers.
Virtual cheers. Clink. But yeah, I mean, that's, I'm really trying to go backwards in life and be 100% celebrate where I'm at with my life now. As being a competitive athlete, one of the things I've always had to, kind of balance is this obsessive drive to move forward, but also being okay with where I'm at. And that's taken a long time for me to get to where I'm at now, where I can just be grateful every day for where I'm at, what I have, who I'm around, who I love, and things like that. And then still balancing with wanting to improve and get better. So I know that's probably not the biggest success that you're looking
No,
for.
I love it. It's perfect because someone had asked me how long I've been in business, and I said, we're approaching 5 years. And she said, oh, now do you feel successful? And I thought, I've felt successful from day one.
Right.
So,
Yep.
But I totally agree with you because I'm type A, super competitive.
Mm-hmm.
And I have learned to live in the moment as well. And there is so much joy in that, way more. And I think having children really opened my eyes to being present.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, that definitely helps me too. Helps me too, and it's a constant reminder because, when you're an entrepreneur like we are, it's easy to have the phone in our hand 24/7.
Oh, right? Yeah.
You could always make a case of who you need to respond to now or what you need to do right now. And so it does force you to kind of stop and just be present and be there for them. And yeah, I mean, I love being a dad and a husband. So that's really my number one priority in my life outside of, what I do personally and go after, from a business standpoint. So.
Right. But I love that you mentioned that because a lot of us type A'ers, we just keep going and we don't really slow down, but you've got to, I think, have that balance because it'll keep you fulfilled. And we have achieved a lot. So we got to take time and celebrate too,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So we worked together for a while now, and I know you played football, you worked at a family business, and you've had business ventures of your own. Walk us through your journey.
Yeah. So, I mean, if we were kind of starting from college, so you mentioned, played football at the University of Nevada, actually did have that opportunity to go back and coach there as a graduate assistant. So that was something I was really heavily weighing. But I had already kind of moved back home, back into San Jose, and my dad provided me an opportunity. It's kind of like one of those, hey, come here, work here until you find yourself the real job, right? Well, then fast forward a couple of years ago, I'm still there, right? But I kind of had a balance of both worlds where I was coaching junior college football locally. And then I started to really realize my passion for business and marketing and things like that. So this kind of happened right in my early 20s. And I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit. And I, when I was young, I was even more aggressive than I am now and wanted to grow, right? It was all about growth and how big can I make something? And so at the time I was working with my dad's flooring company, and he was, a small shop. We had a couple of employees working under us. And the only way I was going to really make more money was if I made him more money. So that's where the obsession with growth and business development and marketing really came from, was when I was working with my dad. And he is just, really as basic as it gets. He was a floor covering installer a couple of years before I started working with him. And he was became an owner of a business. And so we went on this journey together, and it was great. In a lot of ways, we butt some serious heads too. So fast forward a couple of years, we bought a brand new big building in San Jose, and then the recession hit. And so we were like every other company, was like, holy crap, we got this big commitment. Now we're trying to survive. And so I went into everything that was effort-based. And so the first guy I followed, and as social media was starting to pop up at this time, was Gary Vaynerchuk. And so I'm like, okay, cool. Well, I saw he did Wine Library TV. So I started a channel called Flooring My Life TV. And I started just creating videos and educating the market on flooring in general, on different flooring products. And then we started incorporating these things on Facebook. And next thing you know, boom, the business exploded. And we had a 300% growth coming out of the recession. So we went from under $1 million to over $6 million in the 3-year span. And so at that time, I realized, like, okay, I've got something I've figured out here. I've got some skills, but I really didn't like the industry. I did not want to be in the flooring industry anymore. And I really, my dad and I had a good relationship, but we were going in different directions. We were different spots in our career. And it was important for me to really keep the father-son relationship that we had, because we have a phenomenal relationship, but the business kept getting in the way. And so it's kind of like, okay, I really wanted to pursue my own things. We decided it was probably best that we would split. And that's when I started my own my own agency. And so initially I started going after other retail and home improvement type companies, but I don't think they were really ready for what I had. And I wasn't, I was still learning how I was going to position this new business. And then I helped my buddy Dean here locally. He had a staffing company, and that's how I ended up in the industry that I'm in now, was by a complete accident. Just helping a guy out, and we started seeing results. I'm like, oh, this is cool. And I looked at the whole industry. I'm like, whoa, like there's a lot of opportunity here. And so here we are today.
I love it. And you're in the marketplace networking and working with business owners. I'm sure you have loads of funny or unforgettable stories. Any good ones come to mind that you'd be comfortable sharing?
Oof, man. Let me think about that. I mean, I have some really, really interesting interactions doing what I do. I can't think of one right now off the top of my head. Let's circle back to that. Let me give that a little bit of thought as we're going through this.
Okay, we'll come back to that.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you have invested over 50 grand in coaches, and you and I share a very similar growth mindset, and we see that value. To some people, that number make them, collapse and fall out of their chair, lose their breath. Can you talk about the coaches you've worked with and what your return on investment has been?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I started working with this guy, Jason. He was the very first coach I ever worked with. And I went to him thinking that I needed help with business. Well, Jason was incredible. And what we really worked on was me and my relationships, and, being 100% honest and just transparent. It was me and my wife, who is my wife now. We were actually just freshly engaged. And I started kind of telling that story, and, we have a pretty complex life, which you know about. And so he really just helped me on that. And he, his question to me right off the bat was, do you think you can really grow a business that's successful if you're not 100% dialed in at home? And, being previously divorced, I knew the answer to that. I knew the answer was no,
Right.
And so we worked on that. And so from an ROI, it had nothing to do with business, but my God, that's probably one of the best ROIs, was that I have, clarity in my mind and a phenomenal rock solid relationship that we built a foundation from my first coach. And then Jason and I are still great buddies today. And we still, interact today. But I started needing more marketing stuff. So then I worked with this guy, Josh Harris, for a couple of years. Josh really helped me a lot with LinkedIn and just my overall branding. And that's how, once I kind of stumbled on the recruiting, he was the one that encouraged me, like, hey, here's the space you want to play. So worked with Josh for probably a good solid year, and did his original program, did his mastermind. And then after going through Josh, it's kind of like sometimes you need something new. So then I started with this other guy, Scott, and learned some different things on a different platform on Facebook and things like that. And so the guy who I work with now is Jonathan, who I actually met working with Scott. And all of these guys, it's the key thing, when it comes to the return on investment of things, I think that a lot of people overlook is the programs were phenomenal. But the reason I returned the investment is because I implemented the work, similar to you and in our work together, right?
Absolutely.
And I think that's the one thing that people really need to, look at when they're going into coaching is first and foremost, knowing what they're trying to get out of it. And then, has this person achieved the success already for me, right? And is that the lifestyle that I want to live, right? Those are the kind of things that I look for, because I know at this point, kind of similar to you, is like, I know I'm going to do the work, especially after I've already proven to myself when I do the work, what kind of return I can get. That's what's important to me. And it's also what I can now, when I talk to my clients, like, hey, look, I'm not going to tell you to invest and do something that I haven't already done, and here's how it is. Like, my program, everything works, but the key component is you doing the work, you implementing it.
Right. That's where you and I are a coach's dream. They're like, someone who's going to take action and implement.
Exactly. And that's honestly my, if I had a challenge in my business now today, it's getting some people that come into the program. And it doesn't matter what we say or do, because it's an internal thing for them, that, like, trying to help them light their own fire, there's only so much, and this is one of the things I've had to learn, is there's only so much that I can say. It really kind of has to come into them being accountable for themselves in order for it to really work, right? So
exactly. What's a common mistake that you see business owners make, and tips for our listeners to avoid the same mistake?
Okay, so this is I think the biggest thing that's holding people back right now is all the information that's actually out there.
Oh,
And so what I see a lot of people do, and it's pretty fun, you know, because I have my own Facebook group and I'm a part of other Facebook groups where my market's going to hang out strategically. And I can see people in there. I can see former clients who didn't do the work who are still running into these Facebook groups asking for a bunch of information. And the reason I say information is holding people back is because what people need is implementation. They need the action that we just talked about. You don't need information in today's world. You can find literally anything you want on the web today. But what I find people doing is they're consistently searching because they think there's going to be this magic pill or this magic formula that takes away from the work. And that's really the challenge. And so I'm not a big fan of people that just sell these information courses out there, because it's really just, okay, yeah, they've generated the revenue, and yeah, you know, people get a nugget or two, but when you look at most of them, people don't implement what they're learning. You know, we have so many people in society now that are just these walking, you know, knowledge bombshells, but they don't implement what they've learned, you know? So I really think that that's the biggest tip is stop trying to hop around in information and really get serious. If you are trying to take action in an area, of go find a way to actually implement and do the work.
Great advice. Great advice. When we started working together, I totally picked up on your no bullshit attitude. And I totally, you know, you're the what you see is what you get. And that's why we work so well together, because I'm the same. I'm like, you tell me to do something, I will do it. What you see is what you get. Has that always been your approach?
Try to be, you know, I think so. I mean, I think that's pretty much how I've been my entire life, and probably to a fault. I think I need to have some more gray area in my life. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just always been, I think a lot of it honestly has to do with the football background. And the football always being a very, you know, disciplined, kind of no BS. You know, and I've been fortunate to work with Hall of Fame, play for Hall of Fame coaches and at the collegiate level and in the high school level. So I've been very blessed that way. And you can learn from their leadership styles, right? And the best ones are kind of no bullshit, you know? And so it's a balance because, you know, it's not my normal personality, so to speak, but I also know it's what's necessary for me to get my job done, right? So, and I say that because it's not like my comfort zone, right? Like I don't operate out of my comfort zone. Sometimes when I have to lean on somebody, I have to show up and be something different in order to get that done. And I think I learned that, you know, a lot of that through football is just kind of, you know, direct and to the point. And I think that a lot of people, the reason why I try to show up that way now is because most people aren't doing it that way. And I think people need it. And that's my way of coming into service. And actually, I just had a call with somebody just now, and I said, hey, look, I'm going to tell you something you're probably not going to want to hear, but I want to be the guy that delivers it for you so we can actually make an impact. And she fully receptive to it, right? Because she knows that, hey, somebody needed to hear it. So yeah, I mean, it's something that I've developed more and more as a professional, but probably started the foundation of athletics and things like that.
Awesome. Donnie, you've been a huge proponent of video. Does being in front of the camera come easy to you?
No. You know, I mean, it certainly is more now, but when I first started, absolutely not. And even now I can still get anxiety, you know, and we've talked about this, you know, before. It's video is like anything else. It's a journey, you know, and so there's so many things that we can kind of put into our head that prevent us from taking the action. Right. And as we work together, you realize that for me, it was like, hey, forget about all the technical, like how can we do it? Right. Because it's really, you know, as cliche as it is, really like riding a bike. Like you have to eventually get better at it. But The only way you can get better at it is if you keep cranking the wheel and, you know, and keep doing it. So I've always had to, you know, when I was doing the floor covering thing, I was very, very structured and I was very nervous. And it was partially just because of where I was at in my life, some things I was going through personally. And I was trying to be, for lack of a better word, I mean, I'm a communications major. So I was really being regimented in my approach with my video. Now it's the opposite because of really I've adapted to what the market wants. People are more receptive to candid type videos than they are structured, you know, thought out videos. And so, but as I went into this new market, of course I had my own doubts. Like, well, who's going to listen to me? Who, you know, I haven't done these things in this space before. And eventually it's, you know, I just call it ripping the Band-Aid. You know, sometimes I just fire up the camera and just go, just so I can get out of my own way. So yeah, it's not always easy, but you know, to this point now, I'm obviously more comfortable with it. But
I love it. Rip the Band-Aid.
Yep.
As a business owner and father to an army of children, how do you manage your time?
Whew, boy, that's a good one. So I mean, I'll tell you, in going back to coaching and my buddy Jason. So one of the things, that I really worked on with him was time management and routines. And so one of the biggest things that really helps me with my time is my morning routine. And so every morning I try to, I wake up, first thing I'll do is meditate. I'll do some movement. I'm not necessarily talking about exercise. I'm just talking about getting my blood flowing, whether it's jumping jacks, taking a sprint down the block, as weird as it sounds. But 5 to 10 minutes of pure movement just to get my energy going. And then I set intention for my day. So I work off of kind of a 3 rock principle, right? So what I do is I set my intention every morning of, okay, today, these 3 things are going to be achieved before I do anything else. Now I try to schedule my day in the morning around my 3 big rocks. Today is one of those days that it's not going to happen that way, just because my calendar is full with calls and things like that. But that's really what it is I just try to focus on the big 3 every day, all things that are strategic. They're going to move me forward. On a higher level, I actually reverse engineer this and go into the big 3 for the week and the big 3 for the month is really where the game plan comes from. But from a day to day, it's just doing that. And then what I've developed through time, and this is one of the things that I always try to encourage my clients to think about, is I respect my time like I respect yours. So, one of the things that is key is putting it on your calendar. And so many people float and they go, oh, well, and especially like if we're talking about like my clients and I'm trying to teach them something new. Well, what's the thing that always gets put on the back burner? The new thing, right? And so, the more that we really just buy into what we're doing and be intentional about the time and then respect our own time. Look, you would never miss a meeting with me and I would never miss a meeting with you, but why do we bail on our meetings to ourselves sometimes, right? And so that's one of the things that I had to really get disciplined on. And that was like, hey, here's the calendar. Look, at 7 a.m., you're going to go to the gym. You better do it. Hold yourself accountable to it. 8 a.m., I'm going to do my content. And so one of the things that really helps for me is I try to knock out my biggest things in the morning so that, hey, the rest of the day, it's like I can just do what I want to do. And there's no stress, no work anxiety, so to speak. So, that's really how I balance it. And honestly, some of the other things that help are things that we've implemented is, I leverage automation and things like that to help me become more efficient. And that's what I help businesses do. Right. So everything that I'm helping people do is what I'm doing for myself.
Calendaring your time is so crucial, especially for me as well. I even put personal things on there and I stick to it. And then you check it off your list because as you're going through your day, you've achieved it and you move on to the next thing. I feel 5 million times more efficient when my calendar is locked down and I have everything in there, which, some people, when they're not used to that, they might feel overwhelmed by, oh, you're going to schedule all of these things. Yes, I'm going to, because I'm 10 times more efficient.
Right. Well, I think one of the things that I've worked on is my own awareness. So I try not to put too much on my plate because what I noticed through time, and I think a lot of people do this, is, we'll put this massive to-do list and then we don't do it. So then, what's the voice that's in our head? Well, you didn't get your job done. And so then that repeats for a while. And then you start really thinking some pretty shitty things about yourself. So again, kind of going back into the beginning of the conversation of gratitude, it's kind of like, okay, let's set some realistic expectations that are aggressive, but not something that's going to set myself up for failure and demoralize what I've got going on in my momentum, So I think that comes from just time of knowing what can I actually execute in these time blocks that I'm doing. And that's a whole skill in itself to learn what you're capable of executing, right? And then do you actually go into the room, close the door, shut down your phone, do everything you can just to focus on that task? Because we know today's world, boom, you got notifications going off on your email, on your, social media, your husband or spouse calls, it's everything happens, right? So
exactly.
I think those, having that sacred time is important.
Yeah. And I love your 3 rocks. I mean, it's simple, 3 things. It's awesome. I love it. You prompted me to write my free hiring guide for hiring leaders, and you pushed us to automate our marketing as well and to push out endless content and said, Renee, you got to write this, you got to do these videos, and we did it all. What's the first step someone can take who's looking to grow their business?
Well, the first step is you got to know who you're trying to grow your business with, right? I think that's the thing that's often skipped is we all are hungry. We always want to grow revenue. We want to drive it as fast as we can. But what I see happens is, and especially in the industry of staffing, recruiting is you're just looking for your first win. So you start and you pick up whatever you can. So I think the core thing to start with is, who's the ideal person I want to work with? Not who have I worked with in the past, not who ideally do I want to work with? That's the biggest thing that you want to start with, because in today's world, if you're especially if you're going to do things on social media, it's your message that needs to connect. And if I don't know who I'm trying to connect with, it never connects with anybody. Right. And so oftentimes what happens is people are like, oh, well, I know I need to do content marketing. I know I need to put myself out there, but then they kind of try to appeal to the masses. Like, forget about that. Like, try to appeal to this core audience, learn that space better than anybody else, and consistently show up. And that's where the consistency is kind of the biggest result of for my, little success that I've had has come from consistency in the space, continuing to show up and be there. So, the starting point really is knowing where I want to play.
Love it. Totally true. What's the best advice you've ever been given, Donnie?
Best advice I've ever been given. Really, it's just not listening to the stories in my own head. The stories that we tell ourselves are usually what's limiting us, and learning how to control. And, we talked about just being present and in the moment, I think is the biggest advice for me, and especially with the way I'm wired, is just, keeping it simple, right? Staying out of my own head and not limiting what I can achieve and just going after it. So
I love it. And I'm so grateful that you took the time out of your busy day to be on Careers and Cocktails. Where can people find you, Donnie?
Yes, thank you for asking. So you can find me on LinkedIn. It's just Donnie Gupton. The LinkedIn, if you just search out Donnie Gupton, there should only be one of me around there. Facebook, same thing. It's Donnie Gupton. Twitter is @Donnie Gupton. Instagram is @Donnie Gupton. So any of those things, feel free to reach out, but I should be a pretty easy find. There's not too many Guptons out there. So
awesome.
Yeah. Thank you for having me, Renee. This has been a lot of fun.
Thanks for all your value bombs. I so appreciate it. And it's so good to see you.
You too.
For all of our listeners, if you're a hiring leader, go to careersandcocktails.com to download your free strategic hiring guide on how to find the best talent. For all of you job seekers, you can go to the same website to learn where you can purchase my book called I Hate Mondays to help you find the job you love. If you have enjoyed this video, be sure to like, click, and subscribe, and so you don't miss any updates. Cheers.
Cheers, Renee. Thank you.
Cheers.